Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Wrestle Talk with Bear and B Dub. On this edition of B Dub's Thoughts. Now, as promised, I'll be going through each WrestleMania, going through letting you know which ones were, which each one I felt were good, bad, and what they meant to me. So, moving on, let's get started as we break into 1990 WrestleMania VI. I can remember this one. I was 4 years old. I was leaving church that Sunday. This was the last WrestleMania I had with my grandfather. I was leaving church, and he had, he sat me in his Cadillac. This was back then when, 4-year-olds could ride the front seat. So I got in the car, and he was saying, a couple of deacons would get ready to go to the house, and he was describing, one guy running like this and one guy running like that. And I'm sitting there, not really knowing really what he was talking about. I just remember it was just funny because he kept saying, he said it to like 2 or 3 people. So back in 1999, they came out with these DVDs, right? WrestleMania Legacy, 99, 2000. And the first one I purchased was WrestleMania 6. And when they introduced this and they kept showing the highlights for the Hogan Warrior, that's when I saw the crisscross. And I remember being, it took me back to when I was 4 years old sitting in the front of the Cadillac. And that's when I saw exactly what my grandfather was talking about. So, WrestleMania 6, which I thought was a good WrestleMania. I could watch that one from beginning to end. They had the Canadian national anthem being sung by Robert Goulet. So this was obviously because they was in Canada. Coco Beware taking on the model Ricky Martel. Interesting, Coco went to the Hall of Fame. I really didn't understand it when the move happened, but looking back at all the WrestleManias, Coco could wrestle. He was a good performer. He was very entertaining. Mr. Perfect and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. This is another match I enjoyed. Mr. Perfect was absolutely perfect, and he left with the victory right there. What's the other match? The mixed tag match. This one, me and Bear talked about this one. It was one of the top WrestleMania matches in our opinions, and you had Dusty Rhodes and Sweet Sapphire being accompanied by Miss Elizabeth taking on Macho Man and Macho King, Randy Savage, and Queen Sheri. Um, Bear alluded, if you remember, if you saw that, he said that each of the women in this match are deceased, and it's just, it's crazy, But this is when the mixed tag team match, this is the first ever mixed tag team match, and the women couldn't touch the women. The women could only wrestle with the women, the men could only wrestle with the men. So this one was very interesting. This is a good match, Both of them performed, and then at the end, Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire would do with the victory. It was another match. Oh, Andre the Giant's last WrestleMania match occurred in this one. He was in it was a tag team match. I'm trying to figure, it's supposed to be on here. Oh yeah, the Colossal Connection, which was him and Haku taking on Demolition for the tag titles. And you just see Bobby Heenan. He just knew he was gonna get gold. Have gold at the end of that night. But unfortunately for him, that wasn't to be. But then I remember Big WrestleMania pop or moment, you want to call it. The end, Heenan goes, "You stay with me, you go to the top. If you don't, you go to the bottom." So I thought this was, that was pretty good. Shows you how Bobby Heenan, this was during the days of the Heenan family. And he really kept that family. He always had a group of people. It wasn't just one or two. He always had a group of people. And that's what I liked about good old Bobby Heenan. You know. But obviously the big one, which was uh, Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior in a title for title match. Like I said, they in Toronto, Canada, and Hogan gets Hogan loses. He lost to the Ultimate Warrior, and this match was better than what I think a lot of people really gave credit. Um, to people who weren't the best wrestlers, for lack of a better word. Which Hogan, in my opinion, was a good performer. A lot of people don't like to say he was a good wrestler. Hogan was a good performer. You can't take that from him. He knew how to get the crowd working, and I liked the way it ended. The pinfall. It was just 1-2, and it was like he thought he was out, but he didn't kick out in time. I liked it. I loved it. So WrestleMania 6, like I said, it was a big, very special to me personally. Big WrestleMania moment, and this one's Warrior holding up holding up the titles. And another WrestleMania moment, the Dusty Rhodes and the ladies celebrating. So, you know, I want to know what you think about this one. Let me know your thoughts, and make sure you tune in to WrestleMania 7, because this one was a big one. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.